Sincere, the Northwest Rap Gang.
DJ Medina, Jackson, Northwest Rap Gang.
Sergio Lacour's Love.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio Lacour. Go to the phone line. Tell him who we talking.
Sea Monster Radio. Mojang is your.
We're live. Welcome to Mojang Mondays. This is KZ, KB Music Media, Caller Goddess for Mojang Mondays.
Just like God is inspiration all day and all night. Saturday on Rainier Avenue Radio App.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and this is my real voice. Honest, you're hearing it on Rainier Avenue Radio. World.
Should have told her you were sorry.
Oh, he is a hoot. It's 7 o'clock, and you know what time it is. It's time for LidLine Sports. Yeah, that Paul Pearson, he gets me sometimes. He gets me with that one every time. I love that. Welcome back to LidLine Sports. I am your host, Pep. O is on the mic as well. It's good to see him. Oh, what is happening, my brother?
What up, Pep? How you doing, man?
I am good. You caught me mid-laugh, everybody.
Yeah, cracking up over there.
Yeah, because that Paul Pearson commercial just cracks me up. When he's like, this is my real voice. It sounds like Mickey Mouse. It's hilarious. But anyway, welcome back everyone to LidLine Sports. Like I said, I'm your host Pep, and we got O here. And it's so good to be back with you. I'm excited because, of course, we're getting to the latter part of the NFL playoffs. Of course, we had the 2 championship games yesterday, and of course, oh man, I'm so glad you're back so we can get into some NBA because a lot of good stuff has been happening, and I know you're chomping at the bit to get to it. So we will definitely do that. So let's get to the NFL and the playoffs. I've learned some stuff. I have to confess some things, or maybe one thing. I won't go too crazy on you. We want to talk about quarterback play. I want to get into some little analytics and my thoughts on that. So we got a lot to talk about in a short period of time. So let's get to it. Oh, did you watch the games?
Watched them both really good games. How do I put it? I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't say shocked with how both games went, but I think both games definitely had some, wow or, surprise, like wow moments, like, wow, this is how the game's going right now. Right. Just to start off with the Baltimore Kansas City Chiefs game, Lamar Jackson not really being able to do nothing with his arm, but you got to give credit to that Kansas City Chiefs secondary. That has been the unsung hero of this team all season. It was weird to see the Kansas City Chiefs have a top 5 defense this year, but it's been their bread and butter all season, and they showed up in Baltimore on Sunday, and Lamar Jackson he couldn't get much done in the air. And that was, like I said, big part to the secondary, just doing a great job covering those guys.
Yeah. And as I mentioned in the before in the pre-show, I said that I learned some things and definitely want to talk about some quarterback play and all that. What I learned was the regular season, and look, we all know this, but sometimes you get reacquainted, right? So we all know that the regular season and the postseason are 2 different entities. What I learned today is what you see in the regular season ain't what you're going to see in the postseason most of the time. And what I mean by that is looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, we've been clowning them. A lot of people have been clowning them, all season long because what? They have terrible receivers. They've struggled. Patrick Mahomes is, he hasn't been the super Patrick Mahomes he's normally been during the regular season. He's been okay. So he's been great, compared to most quarterback standards, but he's been a little less than spectacular than what we've been used to. Is that fair to say, do you think? For the regular season?
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Definitely fair.
Okay. So what I've learned with this guy, because I said that he's had all those home playoff games. And I said, let's see what happens when he has to hit the road. I wanted to see that. So Kansas City said, okay, we'll play good enough to get back into playoffs, good enough to win our division again, 8 years in a row, whatever it is. And we got to hit the road. We'll just hit the road. Okay. Well, doggone it. They hit the road.
Yep.
They went up to Buffalo and beat the Bills. And I picked them to beat the Bills in that game because, number one, I didn't trust Buffalo. And, Buffalo has been chomping at the bit to get Kansas City at home. Well, they got them. They asked, they got what they asked for and couldn't come through. So chalk one up for the Chiefs on that one. So now Baltimore, who's been pretty much a juggernaut most of the season, they had a few slip-ups, but for the most part, they've been crowned in the regular season. Lamar's been crowned as the MVP, and rightly so during that time. And then when San Francisco played Baltimore in Santa Clara, and Baltimore handled them quite easily, we all said, well, there's the Super Bowl, and we've already got our projected winner. Well, there isn't the Super Bowl for Baltimore unless you get tickets, because you're not going. Because Kansas City went to Charm City and basically wrapped it up in the first quarter. Now, you remember all those videos with Pete Carroll in the locker room? Can you win the ball game in the first quarter? No. Can you win in the second quarter? So on and so forth. We all know the deal. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Kansas City has proved that to be wrong because they won that game in the first quarter because they were so dominant in that first quarter as far as defensively and how they went down the field first drive of the game. And like many other, that's what, 7 straight or 8 straight postseason games where they've gone the length of the field to score on opening drive in the playoffs, which is phenomenal. I mean, who does that, right? So what I've learned is I'm not going to pay attention going forward. Look, I'll pay attention in the regular season, yes, but I'm not going to be fooled again by what I see from a team that I think should be where they are, especially a championship team, right? We got to remember Kansas City is the defending champions, and they've been to the Super Bowl now 4 of the last 5 years. So I think we've been disrespecting them. I know I have, speaking for myself. Oh, what are your thoughts on some of that?
Well, I want to say, I think a lot of people in that first round or that the first matchups between the Bills and the Chiefs, a lot of people thought that the Bills would have had a really solid chance of winning that game, playing at home. Just like you said, the Chiefs played decent enough coming into the playoffs, while the Bills were playing some of their best football in the second half of the season. I thought the Buffalo Bills were possibly going to win that game as well. But like I said, I think this season, when your offense has sputtered due to not having too many weapons on offense, like Mahomes is used to having. They had an elite defense this season, and that's something that Pat Mahomes hasn't had before with the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole.
That's something that we've overlooked too, because whose defense did we talk about all season long? Baltimore's.
Yep.
But nobody really talked about Kansas City's defense.
And so I think defense, this goes back to the old rule, offense wins games, defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. And that's what has been shown in the playoffs for the Kansas City Chiefs. And just like you said, these guys are gamers. These guys have been to many of Super Bowls. So all you have to do is give Pat Mahomes a chance. We've already seen over and over and all what he can do amazingly throughout the course of a regular season and playoffs. So, when you see his numbers kind of dip and the play dip, you start to second guess who he is as a quarterback. But it's okay, because come when it matters, he's going to remind you. That's what great players do. They rise when it matters. So, I think you had every reason to think the way you did, Pep, come playoffs. But yes, also too, now we all understand that. Don't get too beyond yourself if we see the Chiefs, kind of playing somewhat mediocre football offensively.
Yes.
Because these guys are gamers, man. So, I agree with everything you said, and I understand.
There's many reasons as to why Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback. And let's get this clear. In the NFL, there are 32 starting quarterbacks. There's only 3 to 5 elite quarterbacks at any given time in the NFL. That's it. If you're top 10, 5 to 5. If you're 5 to 10, you're very good. If you're 11 to 15, you're good. You're pretty good. You're better than average. 16 to 22, you're basically your average quarterback. And anything under that, we can tell you you're good enough to be a starter for a bad team, but we're not expecting much from you other than that.
Yeah, I agree.
And Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback for several reasons, and we won't go through all of them because there's too many. But one specific reason is look what he's working with. He's got receivers. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore. He's got one receiver, and he's a tight end. He's not even a wideout.
Yep.
And he makes D and C plus wideouts come to play and be B receivers.
Yep.
I'm not going to put him at A because they're not, right? But it doesn't matter because he's an A+++ professor, masterclass quarterback that he just puts the ball where it needs to be, and you just have to go get it. And if you're in the NFL, you should be able to do that. And so he's making C and D rated wide receivers play at a B level, and you see where they are now. That is what an elite quarterback does. There's always the talk about what a game manager is and so on and so forth. Look, every quarterback in the NFL is a game manager. Start off with, okay?
Yep.
What elevates you from that is when, as a game manager, you're basically following the script of what your coach wants you to do. You're not committing stupid turnovers. You're keeping yourselves in the game and giving yourself a chance to win the game come crunch time. That's what a game manager does, basically. What separates a game manager from an elite quarterback or even very good or great quarterback is when they have to improvise, when they have to come up with situations that aren't normal. They have to go off script, and they're successful at it constantly. That's when you're elevated to an elite status, and that's what he does. And Joe Montana and Bradshaw and of course Tom Brady, those kind of guys. When the time came where they needed to be elite, that's when it happened. They don't have to be elite. You don't have to be elite every game, right? I mean, they're going to have bad games. Mahomes has had a bad game. He's had 3 and 4 interception games. However, those are few and far, and that's the difference. You got guys like Mahomes. He'll have a few and far a bad game, and you have a guy like Derek Carr, he'll have 4 good games and 4 or 5 bad ones. So it evens out the wrong way. So there's your difference to me. Now I could, and look, if you disagree with that, that's cool. I get it, but that's just my take on it. And that game yesterday, Kansas City and Baltimore it was not a shocker, but it sure didn't go the way America thought it would go. And nobody outside of Kansas City could tell me it went any different than what they thought, unless you're a Kansas City fan. Of course, you're going to think that, we're going to win. Yeah, I expect that. But other than that, we all thought that it was going to be Baltimore, because Lamar Jackson has been all season, the MVP. And then Kansas City put that D on him, and he couldn't do nothing.
Yep.
And then Zay Flowers, rookie, played pretty good. However, he made a couple of crucial errors, and that was it. What's up?
Oh, I don't know if you were, starting to change your narrative now back onto the Ravens. I was going to ask you, what is now, the narrative with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson?
Well, the only thing is that you can't panic. You got to realize that. Look, Kansas. You got to look at who the Chiefs are. See, the Chiefs are champions. You have to realize that, and that's what they need to look at. Okay, we lost to the champions. That's not a bad thing. If they had lost to Houston last week in that kind of manner, there's panic in Charm City. But they lost to Kansas City. So now what they got to do is realize, all right, we got to up our level. We're not there yet. If you realize that and can get, change some things, add some pieces here or whatever, you'll be fine. So you don't need to panic. You're right there. Look, Kansas City did not score in the second half, which is amazing in and of itself, but you couldn't either. You got 3 points.
Yep. Yeah.
So, that's it. There's no panic in Baltimore, and there shouldn't be.
And I think that's the difference between, not knocking anybody out there, that's the difference between the average fan and somebody who actually really watches the game. Like I said, by all no means, I'm not gloating for us saying we are the top of the top, Pep. Right. We do pretty good with this sports stuff, but you can't panic when, just like you said, these guys lost to Super Bowl champions. They lost to a team that contends every year for a Super Bowl championship. If there was no conferences, these two teams could have met in the Super Bowl. They were two of the best teams in the league. There's no panic that needs to happen. Now, yes, just like you said, now the Ravens hopefully are starting to understand the necessary steps they need to take to become not just really good to now elite and being able to contend each year for a Super Bowl and being able to compete with those guys who do that. I've seen so many just narratives. Of course, Lamar Jackson didn't have the best of games. But like you said, this is why this is one thing I do like about the NFL. You get a whole week to prepare. That's a lot. That says more about the Chiefs' defense than it did Lamar Jackson. People can say these narratives all they want about how playoff losses and all that. Just like you said, if you would have lost to the Texans, then I'd hear you. You lost to the Chiefs. I've seen so many narratives on social media, and it's just sickening, and you get tired of seeing it when a quarterback who, in Lamar Jackson's hands, who's been hearing the narrative all his career that maybe he's a better running back or yada, 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 but you don't say it all season. It's quiet all season when he's playing on the MVP level. Then you see one subpar game, and it just comes all back out.
Yeah, against the defending champions, which is ridiculous, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that tells you how good Kansas City is. How about let's give credit to where credit is due, and let's give Kansas City some love, some credit. Say, look, you know what? They are better than what we give them credit for. We disrespected them as champions, and we won't do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. That's for doggone sure. So as far as that go, to me, them being underdog in the Super Bowl plays right into their hands. To me, they're not the underdog. I know San Francisco. I know who they are. But apparently America doesn't know who Kansas City is, and they're about to find out again. Because we just found out again yesterday who they are. And they could, and we found out the week before when they went up to Buffalo. That ain't no small feat that they went up to Buffalo and beat them when Buffalo, like you said, had been one of the hottest teams in the NFL in the last month of the season. And they went up there in the worst conditions as well, right? And beat them. So, you can go ahead and now they're going to go on a neutral site, Vegas. So the weather won't be a factor. And we know San Francisco has a formidable defense, but look at what Detroit did to them. Let's get into some Detroit, San Francisco real quick. I've got super more respect for Detroit than I had previously. I liked them.
Yep.
And I was hoping they would win. And look, I'm going to be honest. I knew they weren't going to win. I knew it. I just knew it. I was excited when it was 24-7. And I got excited. I even posted my guy. I have a good friend that I went to boot camp with in the Navy, and he's from Detroit, and we still keep in contact. So that's how close, how much love we have for each other. And so I said, man, one more half to go. But he was level-headed. He said, bro, I'm not excited yet. Blah. I know our team. I know the coach, whatever. So I'm not there yet. And he was absolutely correct. I was the one that was all, whoa, ho, ho. I was ready to put Detroit in the Super Bowl. Wrong. So, yeah. So kudos to my man for keeping me level-headed and even-keeled. But I got to still give Detroit some love because they came out like gangbusters. They had 21 points before you can finish tying your shoelaces. Against San Francisco, against that defense, the run game, Gibbs and Montgomery, and then and Williams, to a lesser extent. They've got weapons. And I said it last week. I don't know if you heard the show or not, or I can't remember if you told me you did. But I said that Detroit and San Francisco offensively are mirror images of each other. They got the same kind of weapons. San Francisco has one or two more, right? I mean, they got, of course, Debo and Travis and Ayuk, and then, of course, then you've got in the backfield, you got CMC, and people forget they still have Elijah Mitchell, who before CMC was there was the NFL leading rusher for San Francisco. Yep. But CMC is so good, they put him on the bench. That's how good he is. Man. So they are stacked. They're Lakers Celtics stacked. Detroit quietly as it's kept. They've got some stackage on their own part, especially in the running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown is my guy at wide receiver. I've said that numerous times. Everybody knows this. I love that guy. And their tight end, Laporta, I said it last week as well. I said I couldn't understand why season before last they got rid of Hockenson. Hockenson was a great tight end for Detroit. Now I know why. This Laporta guy ain't no joke. He's for real. He is Pro Bowl ready. So Detroit has a lot to be happy about. They do have to make some changes, especially in philosophy, coach. What did you think about him and his fourth down situations and talking about, I don't know if he talked about it, but people are talking about analytics, and I got a gripe on that.
Well, I know he did talk about it. He said he didn't regret making those decisions. I guess I'll give San Francisco. Yeah, let's say I respect you getting up to the mic and you owning up to the decisions that you made and you living with it. I'm okay with that. Yeah, that analytical stuff. I'm a guy who likes to look at analytical numbers in a sense. But at some point, and I think this is in any sport, the game just starts to take apart, and you just have to go with what you know is right. Analytics, you can't run with analytics is not going to win you, especially a Super Bowl. Like I say, you can look at some of the numbers, but sometimes things run deeper than numbers. You got to take points. In a playoff game, you got to take the points. This is not a regular season football game where you're just looking to go 1-0 for the day. This is win or go home. And in my opinion, it just messed up rhythm for them. You're getting turnovers on downs now and giving the ball back to a team who knows that they need to score, who has found a rhythm on top of that too. Sometimes you just have to shut down a run by just putting up points. Right. So yeah, I do hope, he goes back and understands, there's a time and place for going forward on fourth down, especially when you're in. It's not like these were fourth downs on the 40-yard line. Like some were on the 30, some were, like I said, in the red zone. It's just like, you got to take the points. Got to take the points. That's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of people out there, like you said, who are with the analytics, who would have gone for it on fourth down, but this ain't Madden, Pep. You got to take the points in the playoff game. You got to take the points.
Bro, you said everything perfect. I do have some stuff to add on to that after the break about the analytics, but man, you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it isn't analytical. Sometimes it's just common sense. If you're a head coach, you have to do what's best for the team at that moment, not what's best for what you think is going to happen. You have to figure out what's best for the team and the result. So we'll get more into that after the break. We'll be right back. Do not go away.
Rainier Avenue Radio. Celebrate Black History Month at the Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum, formerly Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South. Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum features exhibits and installations. It's a guided tour.
Installations include the Seattle Black Panther Party, the Black Heritage Society of Washington, the Rainier Cinema Black Movie Posters Collection, the Hartsfield Family Enslaved Quilt Collection, Revere XR, Negro League Baseball's Seattle Steelheads, NAACP Washington, Alaska, and Oregon, Zell's Famous Chicken, Nasty Mix Records, Sir Mix-a-Lot, South Seattle Emerald, the Museum of History and Industry, Community Keepsakes and Memorabilia, the Total Experience Gospel Choir and Pat Wright, the Black Prisoners Caucus, a display from the Tacoma Buffalo Soldiers Museum.
Tuesdays through Sundays from 11 a.m. 7 p.m. There will be no other location where you can celebrate the achievements and the achievers of the Pacific Northwest and Seattle while recognizing the Black excellence that shines today. For more information, visit RainierAvenueRadio.org or call 206-290-9685.
Do you have an idea for a community project in your neighborhood? You could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the City of Seattle's Neighborhood Matching Fund. Grants are awarded to grassroots projects that build stronger communities, with an emphasis on projects led by impacting Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. To learn more about the Neighborhood Matching Fund or to see if your project meets the criteria, visit seattle.gov/neighborhoods/NMF.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Black generational wealth. For a long time, that's been a dream that needs to see reality. For hundreds of years, Black people have been in the United States and have suffered for it. We built this country, but have not yet really seen the dream come alive and what that means for Black people and people of color. This is going to take some time and some work and a lot of sacrifice. So people of color have always done that. And so it won't be any different. You don't need to do it alone, and you don't need to do it alone, because this is a community work project. It's going to take some rigor. It'll take a change in mindset for individuals and the community and the nation at large. This won't be simple, but that's okay. Nothing that's good or worthwhile is ever really simple.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio World.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of LidLine Sports right here at Rainier Avenue Radio World. This Thursday, February 1st, the Black Museum Call to Conscience, Black History Month Museum Call to Conscience starts this Thursday right here at 4916 Rainier Avenue South from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Every day. And this Saturday, a special event, Ezel's 40th anniversary celebration. Live coverage February 3rd at 1 p.m. this Saturday. So don't miss it. And also be sure to remember, throughout the whole month of February, the Black History Month Museum Call to Conscience, February 1st to the 29th. Yes, this is a leap year, right here at 4916 Rainier Avenue South in Columbia City, Seattle, Washington. In the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Hey, we were talking about, what were we talking about? Oh, yes. We were talking about analytics. I want to give a shout out real quick. Bill Walker Jr., Nancy Conyers, Rhonda Dorsey, Michael A. Carter. Thank you all for listening and chiming in with your great responses on via text. You just said a nice soliloquy before we went to the break. On analytics and stuff. And, listen, I'm not trying to bash it because it's necessary, especially in baseball where it's used heavily. But here's my thought on analytics. What analytics doesn't tell you or show you is when you're 4th and 2, you got to look at who's across the other side. San Francisco is considered the top 1, 2, 3 defense in the entire NFL. And you're in the playoffs. So you don't go 4 and 2 and say, okay, we're going to make it and keep going. No, you kick the field goal, get the points, because this is the playoffs. This is a do or die game. It's not the regular season. Now, look, if this was the regular season game, I don't care. I'm all for it. You know what? Be aggressive. Show everybody that you mean business. But you can't do that when it's do or die, because the chances more than likely, because of if you're going against a top-notch D team like that, analytics doesn't tell you whether or not to go with it in that case, because it doesn't give you that scenario. This is not Detroit at Seattle with a team that can't play defense very well or tackle. So if you're going 4th and 2 against the Seahawks, heck yeah, I'm going for it every time. Because number one, either they're going to get penalized, right? Because they do that a lot, or they're going to miss a tackle. and I'm good with that. But not against San Francisco, I'm not doing that. So that, to me, that was just insane. And he did it twice. You do it the first time and you don't get it, don't do it again. You learned your lesson, man. Don't do it again. I don't care if you don't regret it. San Francisco doesn't regret it either. They thank you for doing that. Come on, man. You can't do that. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm not. My bad.
That's okay.
I'm on my Granville used to do that a lot. And then
Granville caught a stray.
My fault with the shot, G. And I'm not asking them to not be aggressive, going forward. Like I said, I just think now you you start to you ask yourself, just like you said, those numbers tell a tale, but there's another side to them. Every one of them. It's not a 100% success rate that you're going to get a fourth down conversion, and those numbers differ with, just like you said, with who you're playing. So I thought that whatever the analytics told him, you should have cut it in half because you were playing one of the best defenses in the NFL on top of that. So, like I said, that's not the reason they lost, but it was definitely big reasons to why they lost. But Brock Purdy, to me, to see him, did he get it done in the air? No. But what I love just about that guy, man, he's a gamer, and you put yourself in a position to be successful when you just have guys like that on your team. I get it. He's playing the most important position in all of the NFL. But the offense is designed for him to not have to be a savior for this team. Now, yesterday, he did take it upon himself to make really big plays for this team with the run. And that's something that he's been able to do as a quarterback all season. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Brock Purdy, because without him making those plays with his legs, they wouldn't have won this game.
Thank you.
And those were with those guys. Those were with those guys being behind. So with all those guys who call him a game manager and all that, that's fine. You just make sure you call him a gamer and possibly an NFL Super Bowl champion as well too, if they win one more game.
That could very well be true. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because look, Brock Purdy, he's not an elite quarterback. Let's not go overboard like some of these talking heads that I've seen on some of these sports shows today, talking how thrilled they were with that he was able to come through. Look, no. The pass that Ayuk caught was pure fortune and heads up play by Ayuk. That had nothing to do with Purdy, because that should have been picked off. The Detroit defender blew it. It went off his helmet. He should have picked that off. So number one. And number two, that one pass where he threw real high and the guy caught it with one hand. I think it was Jennings, right? And pulled it down. So that was not Purdy. That was just a fortunate play. And that was a play made by a teammate, because that's what you do, right? Great teams help each other out. So it was more so a team helping him out rather than he actually making the play. And O made a great point that they used the run. Well, who's the guy? That's Christian McCaffrey. He's the guy. So he's the one busting through the line and gashing Detroit. And so it's not that Purdy's not an elite quarterback. Well, he's not. It's not that Purdy is not a good quarterback, because he most definitely is. He's the prototypical game manager, because he keeps you in the game and he does what they need to do, because he's got the weapons to use, so he knows how to get to their weapons and whatnot. He's not an improviser, except that finally he got out of the pocket and did some running and bide some time and whatnot. And he did enough where they were able to come back and win. But it wasn't just because of him. That's for sure. And people were making it seem like, well, Purdy's the next Montana. No. It's not even. He may be, but he's not even close to that yet. Not even close. He did just enough. And then, of course, Detroit helped out by just, collapsing pretty much. They gave up the lead, 17-point lead within 8 minutes. Third quarter was all gone. Right? So, yeah, I don't want to give the wrong message saying that I don't think Purdy's good, because I do think he's good, but I don't think he's as good as people are trying to lead you to believe he is. He's good enough for that particular team, right? Because he doesn't make mistakes, many. He makes them, but he doesn't cost them, and there's a big difference of when you make those mistakes and whether or not it costs you the victory. Because he's not making the mistakes in the fourth quarter when they could possibly lose. He made those mistakes, those bad throws and whatnot in the first half. That one play to Ayuk, that was a bad throw. I'm sorry. I don't care what people say. That was a bad throw that happened to be fortunate that Ayuk was able to get it. So give credit where credit is due on that. And but I got one more question, before we hit to the NBA. Okay. So circling back to Dan Campbell real quick. He's got an offensive coordinator who's going to get a head coaching job, right? Somewhere, either here or in DC. Wouldn't you want to talk to him and say, man, do you think we should go for this 4th and 2? Wouldn't he? I mean, do you consult him or not? Does he have some say or some weigh in on your final thought? I mean, you're the head coach. I know you're going to do what you want to do, but I thought that perhaps, well, let me see. You know, he's about to be a head coach, and we're 4th and 2. We're in a playoff game, and this is do or die. Bro, what do you think? Can you make this work? Now, if he tells me yes, I'm going to say it's my decision 100%. I'm not throwing him under the bus if it fails. Not doing it. Because I asked him, he gave me his opinion, and I'm going to do what I do. I mean, do you have any thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, do I agree with you? Yeah. But I think, you know, that's why the head coach gets paid the big bucks, you know, to make those decisions. But yeah, you would want to think that, you know, a coaching staff can, you know, get together and, you know, come to somewhat of a decision, getting the pros and cons of what's going on, and then you make the final decision. Yeah, but you know, I think just mostly at the professional level, you know, when you're the head honcho, I think you're going to be the one that just you make those decisions and, you know, you live with it. So I definitely see what you're saying. I agree with you, but I just thought to me that, I mean, you know, if you're the captain, I'm going to want to talk to the XO. That's the second in command, by the way. You know, if this decision that I'm making, what do you think? Whether you agree with me or not, I'm still going to make that decision my way, regardless. And if it's wrong, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm not doing it. Even if you wholeheartedly agreed with me, I'm not throwing you under the bus. It's my decision, period. That's it. So yeah, that was just curious to me that I hadn't heard that mentioned. So anyway, let's get to the NBA, man, because look, we've been kind of NBA lacking here, and it's kind of my fault because I've been going on and on about other stuff. And of course, you've been busy with the mighty Cleveland Eagles fly. So I'm digging that. And you guys are doing pretty good. I'm digging that. So, man, please take it away with the NBA, please. I mean, yeah. I mean, we know how this it's playoff time for the NFL. The NBA is starting to ratchet up a little bit, but we all know that the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl coming up is one of the biggest attractions in all of sports. So, yeah, the NBA, it is definitely not a circus to say, but it is gone in 1,000 different places over the last 3-4 weeks, I would like to say. I don't know what's working, but maybe not talking about the NBA has definitely been helping my sons. I'll tell you that, but playing much since we haven't been able to talk about them, and hopefully I don't jinx them. They did win today with the Miami Heat, but Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker have all been healthy. Devin Booker averaged 42 points a game over the last week to give him NBA Player of the Week. So I would like to say give them some little props of making their way out of the play-in, see if they'll stay out. But the big news, of course, is coming out of Milwaukee. With the firing of Adrian Griffin last week, which was a total shocker across the board.
Shocker to me.
Total shocker to me. You heard rumblings all season. He lost assistant coach. I can't think of his name. The old Portland Trailblazers coach.
Yes, I know.
Terry Stotts. Terry Stotts quit early on in the season after they got into a big disagreement early in the season. Then you start to hear rumblings about him and Bobby Portis getting into it. There's also now hearing that Damian Lillard felt like he wasn't being used correctly offensively. Giannis having his questions with the defensive schematics, and the general manager, made a very bold move and fired a coach after being second in the Eastern Conference.
17 games over 500.
Yeah, 17 games over 500. But nonetheless, what was his demise was seemed like the locker room, the roster was starting to rally against him, and then secondly, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. But that is just total nasty. It's a really nasty business to be a head coach in the NBA in today's era. I've never. There are now. David Blatt has gotten fired from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, I think he was first or second in the East. We all know what happened with that. Ty Lue ran away and did a really good job of Cleveland Cavaliers taking to the finals and winning. But this is not common. And I think what makes this even more uncommon is that Adrian Griffin was a first-year head coach. And not on top of that, after reading into this, Pep, Adrian Griffin, like he was hired with the thought that they were possibly going to start moving in a different direction this summer, knowing that they could possibly lose Brook Lopez, who was being heavily courted by the Houston Rockets, and that Chris Middleton was also a free agent, and they didn't know whether or not that they were going to bring him back. And then you also heard rumblings about Giannis putting pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks with only 1 year left on his deal, and them trying. So it seemed like they brought him in with the understanding that maybe that they might be going in a different direction roster-wise. But you go and get Damian Lillard and you trade away Drew Holiday. But my opinion is you couldn't give him leeway for that, because that's not my fault. That's why, with your thought process, you signing me, I'm a head coach. I'm going to game plan for whoever is on this roster regardless. And as long as Giannis on this roster, I'm trying to win games. I didn't come here to just be a project rookie head coach and, see what happens for the first year. And then I'm taking over maybe a young rebuilding roster the year after. I don't think that was Adrian Griffin's game plan. And on top of that, I think another point Adrian Griffin, I was hearing that he lost his defensive anchor in Drew Holiday after he got traded.
Exactly. I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, so the whole defensive schematics now changes. You don't have a primary on-ball defender no more. Chris Middleton is taking a step back due to injury. The Milwaukee Bucks like to keep Giannis off primary defenders to make him more of a weak side defender. So yeah, you lost that, and I thought given that getting Damian Lillard closer to the trade or closer to training camp, working with this roster job, yes, there was some eye-opening losses because of how many points that they were giving up. But given the facts that this was his first year ever being a head coach, given a roster who is trying to win championships, bringing in a piece who's never played with a polarizing piece like Giannis and vice versa. They both have never played with elite superstars before. I mean, Pep, if you told me that those guys were going to be in second place in 17 games over 500, I would have thought that he was doing an amazing job then. So to me, and I'm not going to call Giannis a coach killer because it sounded like I don't think them firing Bud was on him, because I think he really liked Budenholzer. But this is a lot on Giannis. They don't make that final call unless Giannis had some type of say in that. There had to have been some type of meeting with Giannis and Dame, and then they made the decision. There's no way you tell me that they went into making this call without their say-so. I don't see that. And you know why, Pep? Because I was listening to TNT on Thursday, and no, not TNT, ESPN on Wednesday. And what's the old GM's name who does ESPN now for the Warriors?
Oh, Bob
Myers.
Myers. He's going to be with the Commanders now. Football.
Yes. So I think he made a very good point. When he brought up that, I think he was asked a question about how does he feel about players, getting huge says on who we're going to hire as a head coach. And I think he made a good point saying that, it's not necessarily a player's job to hire head coaches. That is the front office's job. Now, yes, do you want to get your opinion from especially your star players and hear what they have to say? Sure, you may take some things here and there, but as a front office, it's your job to make that final decision. It shouldn't have to be what Giannis said, because that's not his job. And I don't know how fit Giannis is of picking head coaches, knowing what schematics to run and things like that. And I'm not knocking him or his IQ, but a lot of players don't have that high of IQ. There's maybe 5 players in the NBA who you would really can lean on for heavily to hire an NBA coach. I wouldn't put Giannis in that discussion. So to have to put that on him to who your final say is who's going to be your head coach, now it's going to be on him when you're not playing well, and he's going to get the final say if the guy gets fired. So I just thought that there was I know it's a player empowerment league, but there is such thing as too much power in these players. And I'm not saying shut up and dribble, but these guys are getting paid to play on the court, not make all these other decisions off the court and in the front office. That's not their job. And I thought Bob Myers did a really good job putting that together. There may be people who disagree, but I really agree with what he was saying. No, granted, I thought they made the right decision who they hired in Doc Rivers, defensively wise, and just somebody who's been here before. Now, yes, we can bring up his resume and what he's done in the playoffs as of late and whatnot. But if we were just talking about coaches that were left, and we're talking about in the mid-season changes, we know that Doc was looking to get jobs anyway after he got fired from Philly. I thought that was a coach who was ready to go, and I think he was already somewhat of a mentor to Adrian Griffin towards the latter part of this season. So I thought it was just a fit right in and plug. But like I said, it just sucked to see a first-year head coach who will never know when he's going to be able to get a coaching job again now, because it just doesn't look good as much as people want to feel for him and saying he's going to get a job. The facts are the facts. He got fired in his first year halfway through. So and the other facts, he's also an African American coach. So we know how that goes. What's your thought about all this though, Pep?
Well, here's what I thought, and I don't know if any of this is true, but this is what I'm thinking. I think Giannis went to the front office because, number one, I don't think Adrian Griffin liked his brother at all.
Okay.
I've heard rumblings that, he's questioned whether, why is he even on this roster, and I think Giannis is offended by that because, why is Thanasis on the Bucks? Really? Have you seen him play? I mean, I saw a highlight reel today, or a low light reel, for the lack of a better term. He's terrible.
I've seen the same highlight. I've seen the same one.
He has
Hilarious.
no business being in the NBA, but he's Giannis's brother, so that's just nepotism at its finest. But anyway, I do think that Giannis definitely had Adrian Griffin ousted. And what I know you said you understand how Doc Rivers is on there. The only reason why I'm glad Doc Rivers is coaching, because I'm glad he's off my TV, because I can't stand him on broadcast. He is awful, and just listening to him it's like listening to the blackboard all game long, and nobody wants to do that, when the teacher screeches the blackboard, whatever. I don't want to hear that, and I definitely don't want to hear Doc Rivers for 4 quarters. So I am so glad he's not on TV talking. That's just that's just honesty, man. I can't. Look, he had his moments, but he ain't had a moment since 2008. That's a long time ago, man. So whatever. Good luck to the Bucks. But this summer is going to be woof. It's going to be rough for them. They're about to hit the skids, because I don't think Giannis stays. They're not keeping Middleton, and Damian Lillard is going to be crying again. Guaranteed.
Well, Giannis signed an extension. So
yeah, but I'm telling you, I'm
you think he can ask out?
He's gonna want out of there, unless he knows who they're gonna get, right? In free agent or trade or whatever. But I don't know.
That'll, and I know he doesn't care about popularity, but he will lose so much respect around the NBA if he asks for a trade after getting everything you asked for out of a friend. There has been, maybe outside of LeBron James, there is no other player who has gotten literally everything he asked for after every time he makes some type of complaint.
Mm-hmm.
You came on radio and said if your team doesn't, make possible moves that you might be gone, and you clearly got the coach that you wanted, and you got rid of the coach after you didn't want him. I don't know how much respect I would have for him as a player. But just like you said, I don't think he cares. But that just tells me how much it takes for him to need to win. Because you have everything you want. This is a really good roster. That's not the problem. Now you have two good coaches. You had Mike Budenholzer. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks are paying 3 coaches now. It's like
exactly.
Wow, that's just insane.
Before we get out of here, I just want to announce the All-Star starters were announced on Thursday.
Okay.
Think that pretty much got it right for the most part. On the Eastern Conference, we'll have Giannis as the captain, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, first-year starter, and Damian Lillard.
Kudos.
Tyrese Halliburton, I think the only thing I would have took Donovan Mitchell over in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes.
Hunter.
Another correct choice. Yes.
I know everybody loves Steph, but you can't reward under 500 basketball, and Shai Gilgeous is playing better than him. They got it right.
Yeah, and they're number 1 or number 2 seed right now. So
yep.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, totally agree, man. Totally. Surprise teams, man. The Cavs, the Knicks, and the Suns beat the Heat today, 118-105. So I know you're happy about that. Yep. So yeah. So thanks a lot. Great show. I'm glad to have you back. So on behalf of I'm Pep. So we'll be back next week with more LidLine Sports. No football next week, so we're gonna have to try and figure out some stuff to talk about. All right. Peace.